Domnilor și domnilor, un privilegiu să îl reavem alături de noi pe ambasadorul Daniel Fried, unul dintre cei mai buni experți americani în problema Rusiei. Un diplomat de carieră, un expert al Atlantic Council și vom discuta împreună cu domnia sa două subiecte extrem de importante. Unul legat de o chestiune de politică internă, o delegație AUR care a fost primită de domnul ambasador Daniel Fried la Washington și chestiunea evoluției NATO și a relației transatlantice. Ambassador Daniel Fried, welcome back to Antena 3 CNN Romania. It's a privilege to see you again.
Mulțumesc. Great to be here.
Well, it was a story in the Romanian media, your picture with Romanian politicians from the opposition.
Right.
The party is called AUR,
Sure.
a nationalist party, and there were some questions why an ambassador like you will talk to nationalist politicians from the opposition in Romania.
Well, fair question. The real reason is Romania is an important country, and our, whether I agree with them or not, is a major political party here. I can't ignore them. And so when they asked for a meeting, I thought, well, better to talk to them directly than be talking about them, not knowing.
And you knew about their rhetoric, about their ideology, about that they are supporting a presidential candidate which is pro-Russian?
Oh, sure. I mean, I knew their background. Meeting does not imply that I support their views. It does mean that I need to have direct contact with them because who knows what's going to happen in the future. Look, there's another factor, since you ask. They were in Washington. There is a connection between the American hard right and and other similar groups throughout Europe. And I don't want their only contact with Americans to be with the hard American right, because some of that right, well, some of it is Reaganite, okay.
Yeah.
But some of it is, well, I would say they think that spheres of influence and dividing the world between the great powers is a good thing. That's what they think. That's not what I think. But I don't want ours only contact with Americans to be with Americans who think like that. So, yeah, I met with them. Americans ought to meet with everybody. It's not up to Americans who Romanians elect. That's Romanians' job. Our job is to work with the governments here as best we can.
Right. With your great experience, what do you think about the evolution and the growth of the nationalist far-right parties, not only in Romania, but also the MAGA wave in United States and in some other countries, in France, in Italy, in Germany?
Well, see, that's exactly the right question. That's exactly the right question. What is going on in the Western world that these parties rise? And some of it has to be dissatisfaction with how the more establishment parties have been conducting things. And we need to know this. We of, let's say, liberal-minded or transatlantic need to figure out what has gone wrong and what we do to fix it. And we also should keep in mind that not all right-wing parties are the same. Let's focus on this part of Europe. Okay, so we know Fidesz, right? But think of the Peace Party in Poland. Fidesz seems to be more pro-Putin. The Peace Party seems to be pro-NATO, anti-Russian aggression, pro-transatlantic. There's a big difference between right-wing parties. Or let's take Italy. The Prime Minister Meloni is right-wing, but she's also pro-NATO and pro-Ukraine. Big difference between her and her party and, let's say, Alternative for Deutschland. And let's say Marine Le Pen's party is somewhere in between. What that means is that the nationalist right in Europe is not all the same. And in the United States, well, let's take Trump world. That's a big, big coalition. It goes from Reaganites to America First to people who think that Yalta was a good thing. These are not single parties monoliths. The right is not one thing, it's many things. And those of us of a transatlantic, pro-free world mindset, right? We need to work with the parts of the right that we can work with and build the broadest possible coalition, not for the sake of one political option. I'm not political in that sense, but for the sake of the free world. And for the sake of the free world, I'd be willing to work with just about anybody.
I guess you're right. What is your opinion about the tensions between the United States and Europe? Is the transatlantic relation, as we know from 1945, in danger?
It's being threatened from within and without. From without, it's being threatened by Putin and his aggression. Okay, this is pretty clear, and no Romanian needs an American to tell them so. Yeah. From within, it is being threatened by parties and political options who are simply indifferent to Russia's aggression or don't believe in the free world but believe in great powers dividing up the world. Some are Reaganite, some are otherwise. And a lot of the problems in transatlantic relations are the result of some of the less wise things the Trump administration has done, like threatening Greenland for no good reason, or President Trump insulting our NATO allies who sent troops to fight in Afghanistan and Iraq. And some of the underlying tensions are the result of European underinvestment in defense, which has bothered Americans for a long time, not just the Trump administration. So we have a whole bunch of problems. However, I'm old enough to remember previous periods of problems. We've gotten over it. The transatlantic alliance has existed since 1945 or 1949, if you want to count the establishment of NATO, and it has gone through many phases and gotten through many crises. I think we can get through this one if the transatlanticists stick together and work together.
The question I want to put next is really about the fate of NATO.
Sure.
Because I never saw in 35 years of journalism so many opinions that NATO is dead, that NATO is obsolete, that NATO will disappear. What do you think? Because you have a great experience on evolving all the allied nations, especially here on Eastern Europe.
Well, I'm old enough that I remember plenty of predictions that NATO is dead that go back to the 1970s or even earlier. And NATO has gone through many crises, many differences. Now, you might say, yeah, but this is different. Well, we'll see how different it is. The fact is, NATO is under stress, but I can see that the way forward is still open. It will involve Europe stepping up to do more for its own defense, which is not just a demand of the Trump administration. American leaders have been pressing for Europe to do more for its own defense since Eisenhower. And now America seems to have won the argument. Europe seems prepared to do that. So there is a new deal for the transatlantic alliance that is awaiting us to make it, which is Europe does more, and America respects that Europe must have and will insist on having a more equal voice in transatlantic relations. This could work, especially because now the Europeans, especially let's say the West Europeans, are recognizing that countries like Romania, Poland, Estonia were right about Russia all along. The Romanians have been telling me for 30 years, you Americans should not be naive about Russia. They're going to be back because they still want the empire. Okay, you were right. And more to the point, The Germans understand that you were right. So this is the basis for a new transatlantic alliance based on recognition that Putin is engaged in aggression not just against Ukraine, but against Europe in general, and based on an assumption that Europe has to do more to stand up and push back. Now, we're not there, but I'm saying that we could get there. And Romania can play a part in forging this new consensus. And so I hope that Romania is active and that Romania's voice is heard. And this is a voice that goes beyond politics in Romania. It can include people from the right if they will stand up and say that Russia is a problem.
Ambassador, do you agree with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, who said you can't forget the security of Europe without US involvement?
Well, I might have put it somewhat differently. That is, Europe can do more for its own defense. For now, America's role is critical, and it will be critical for some time. But there's a way to fix the problem of insufficient European contributions to defense, and Europe is stepping up to do it. So, look, I give Mark Rutte a lot of credit. He has been criticized, you didn't ask it, but I'm going to answer it anyway. He's been criticized for cultivating a strong personal relationship with President Trump. And yet, he was the one who helped Trump walk back his threats to Greenland and Denmark. So it's worth it. With the Americans, Europe, and with the Trump administration, Europe should be prepared to stand up for its interests, but also do the deal with the Americans when it's possible. And I think you need both. You need both tactics. Romania's role can be to show the Americans that it, like Poland and the Baltic states, are doing what is needed for defense and help build that new transatlantic relationship.
So in those troubled times, do you think that Romania should increase its military profile? Because we are worried about the tensions between the United States and Europe. We are worried about the Russian aggression, which is permanent and more, bigger more and more. So Romania should increase its military profile, or should we do more on diplomatic network?
Well, it's not one or the other. But certainly Romania should increase its ability to help with NATO's defense. And it should be active in Washington to say, look, you've asked for Europeans to step up. We are stepping up. Poland is not the only one. We're here, so let's work together. And Romania can make common cause with Americans of similar views, including those in Trump world. They're not all neo-isolationists or Fortress America people. There are plenty of neo-Reaganites, if I can put it that way, in Trump world. And Romanians across the political spectrum can work with them. Moreover, on issues that really matter to Trump world, patriotism, faith, family, Romania is still pretty much a conservative society, and that's across the board. That's not my view. Romanians have told me that, and I think they're right. So I would say that Romania should not let, shall I put it bluntly, shouldn't let Fidesz be the voice of Central and Eastern Europe in Washington.
Thank you very much for this conclusion and for this interview. It was a great pleasure to see you again, Ambassador Daniel Fried.